She's the recipient of 37 honorary degrees. Secretary Chao received an MBA from Harvard Business School. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Chao.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for that very warm welcome. And I thought he looked okay and casual as well. And then, Carlo, it was so nice to go through my whole resume. You know, the older you are, the longer it gets. And I'm thinking to myself, these people are going to think I can't hold a job. But you are a very important group, not only to us at the U.S. Department of Transportation, but also to our country. And so I have brought a number of senior Department of Transportation leaders here, and I'd like to acknowledge them. We have Todd Inman, who's the Chief of Staff. We have Sean McMaster, the Deputy Chief of Staff. We have Brandy Hendrickson, Federal Highways Acting Administrator. Mala Krishnamurti, Associate Administrator for FHWA. Tom Everett, FHWA Executive Director. We also have Chris Minton here, Mike Renard. They're all here. Andy Post. But the purpose is we really do want to listen to you. We feel that we have a special relationship. We all believe in the same things, and that's to make America strong. And this is a very honorable and lofty goal that we all share. So they're here to listen to your concerns and insights and to share information. And as Carlos mentioned, we have Secretary Mary Peters here. I'm always very nice to my predecessors, hoping that when I come to something like this, after all of this, that my successor will be nice to me as well. You've got Jim Timon, who's doing a great job for you here in Washington. He looks out for your interest, and he is very knowledgeable about all these issues, and that's good for us as well. And then finally, I want to acknowledge someone who has spent 2 years, who has devoted 2 years of his life to helping us at the Department of Transportation and serving his country, and that's Jim Ray. I don't know where Jim is. Jim is back there from North Carolina, and North Carolina's Secretary of State, Secretary of Transportation is here as well. You now have reclaimed your native son. So Jim, thank you very much for all your help. And then you all know that I'm a Kentuckian, right? So I cannot begin without acknowledging my home state, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Thomas. Well, this is my third time with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to bring my whole team and to just chat with you also about issues of mutual concern. We really appreciate and value AASHTO's year-round inputs on matters of importance in your state and local communities, as well as issues of national significance. And America's transportation networks are essential, obviously, we all agree, and we all know this, to local economies, to state economies, and to our national economy as well. And the effects of our infrastructure, the state of our infrastructure, is incalculable in terms of the quality of life that our citizens and residents have. And I'm of an age where I remember, but a lot of Americans don't remember these days, what traveling was like before the interstate highways and also today's aviation system. You know, when I came as a young immigrant, my parents and I marveled at the interstate system. We would travel throughout the country and we would think, this is America. I mean, look at these roads. They connect across states, and they are so straight and beautiful and uniform. And we just loved traveling on the interstate. And that was a little confusing, I think, to some other people who were like back roads. No, we like the interstate. But getting that infrastructure built was an incredible feat. But as we complete that task, maintaining and improving upon it is just as important and formidable. Now, fortunately, infrastructure is among the top 2 or 3 big policy matters upon which leaders from both parties can agree that there's bipartisan effort and desire to make progress. This morning, you heard from the chairman and ranking members of two of the congressional committees, House Transportation and Infrastructure and the Senate EPW. They're going to have profound influence on the future of infrastructure in America. And they're also going to be drivers of the infrastructure package that all of us will be discussing as well. I look forward to working with them during this Congress. I had breakfast this morning also with Ways and Means Chairman Neil. And so we want to reach out to everyone who is involved in making our infrastructure better, to craft a bipartisan approach. Because as the president noted in his recent State of the Union address, infrastructure is the backbone of our nation's economy. It's important to know that significant investments in infrastructure is already taking place. We introduced a bill last year, February 12, 2018. We were not successful in passing all of it, but in the last 2 years, a number of significant events concerning infrastructure have occurred, including the FAA reauthorization bill enacted in October, which included $16.5 billion over the next 5 years for new airport infrastructure projects. And in October, the president also signed into law the Water Resources Development Act. And the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, included provisions for opportunity zones. 8,700 communities have so far been certified by the Treasury Department to spur new investments in infrastructure. And the White House also launched the American Broadband Initiative to bring new digital infrastructure to underserved rural communities. Now, a year ago, on March 23, 2018, due to the omnibus bill, the department received a down payment on the president's infrastructure proposal of an additional $10 billion. That brought the fiscal year 2018 appropriations at the Department of Transportation to about $87 billion, of which more than $63 billion were spent and invested to support infrastructure projects across the country. And on February 15th of this year, the fiscal year 2019 omnibus funding bill will provide the department with a $400 million increase over last year's funding. And it provides the Federal Highway Administration with an additional $3.3 billion, of which I know this audience would love. So $475 million of that is for a new formula-based highway bridge program targeted towards states with disproportionate percentages of bridge surfaces in poor condition. $1.65 billion is added to the emergency relief program. I've asked in my previous meeting of the state transportation secretaries how we're doing on a number of fronts. We look at these emergency relief funds very seriously. When you send them in, they go to Brandy and it goes directly up to with us. So Brandy and we are looking at it, and within 1 hour, that's our goal. We want to turn that around. In the past 2 years, the department has also given and continues to give out billions of dollars in discretionary grants. So in November, the department announced a funding opportunity for $272 million in state of good repair grants for transit and rail systems. And in December, the department announced a notice of funding opportunity for about $860 million in infra grants to rebuild highways, bridges, and other critical surface transportation networks. And also in December, the department announced $1.5 billion in build grant winners, which included about 91 projects in 49 states and the District of Columbia. Now, money aside, as important as that is, the department is also striving to make structural changes. For example, in making it easier from a process perspective to build infrastructure. We are streamlining the permitting and approval process so that infrastructure projects can be delivered more quickly while continuing to protect the environment and maintain safety standards. We are progressing on this one federal decision. This is an administration multi-agency initiative to cut the red tape that's holding up project delivery. This presidential mandate requires better coordination across the government for large projects, only large projects, such as allowing concurrent rather than sequential, requiring sequential permitting review. And it also establishes target completion dates for federal review of large projects and holds accountable the lead government department or agency when deadlines are not met. The goal here is to make every dollar invested in infrastructure to go further without compromising outcomes. In fact, we believe that this will facilitate the outcome. And a recent McKinsey analysis found that construction productivity in the US has been flat for about 30 years. This analysis also found that the American pre-construction process continues to be among the slowest in the world. Clearly, too many construction projects in the US are over budget and behind schedule, due in significant part to federal red tape. And so the status quo in this administration's view is not an option. Project delays and cost overruns have real consequences. You all know that. And so we want to work on that. These delays postpone the improvements in safety, quality of life, and economic growth. And cost overruns also mean less or no funding for other needed projects. I spoke to someone from Washington State, the state secretary, and if I quoted you wrong, correct me later on, but he said that because of the permitting review, an additional $20 million was released. And so that's $20 million for, 2 additional projects in certain states. So we are doing what we can in the executive branch to address this, and hopefully comprehensive bipartisan legislation on infrastructure can be achieved in this Congress to do even more. America's in the midst of one of the most exciting times in transportation history. I've been here working on this for over 30 years, and it is so exciting to be here during this time when new technologies are being developed that have the potential to save lives, to revolutionize travel and commerce, and provide freedom, new mobility options for underserved communities. Some of these technologies are still in the early phases of development. Fully autonomous or self-driving vehicles, for example, exist primarily still in the limited and controlled circumstances. And the department's approach to regulating automated or self-driving vehicles stresses collaboration, cooperation, and transparency. The potential of this technology to increase safety is especially noteworthy because more than, as we all know, 37,000 lives are lost on our roads and highways in 2017 alone. And yet, and I talked to Silicon Valley and I talked to OEMs, the promise of automated vehicles will never be realized if the public does not have confidence in the safety, security, and privacy of these new emerging technologies. So I have challenged the manufacturers and Silicon Valley to step up and help educate consumers about these new technologies. It is even more important that automated vehicle manufacturers put safety first and embrace transparency, which will build consumer trust, which is good for them and it's good for all of us. Another issue that I know that you're all very concerned about is the whole 5 gigahertz issue. The department is very much aware that preserving the 5.9 gigahertz band for transportation communities is an AASHTO priority. It is our priority. The department's position is very clear, and we are quite bloodied in this whole process. Let me assure you that we know that this is essential to public safety today and in the future. The automotive industry and municipalities are already deploying V2X and V2I technology and actively utilizing all 7 channels of the 5.9 gigahertz band. This technology, as we all know, has the potential to improve safety, infrastructure, and efficiency as the department works to make road travel and future transportation significantly safer. Now, the department will continue to work closely with the FCC and the NTIA to utilize the 5.9 gigahertz band for public safety applications and vehicle safety communications. I can't tell you what to do, but your voices are important. As I mentioned, we battle with other sister agencies all the time about this. So we are in total agreement. So help us to help the industry to make sure that that spectrum is reserved for transportation. You know, as we talk about the challenges of infrastructure, and especially how to pay for it, these questions have been long-standing, cycle after cycle. And I think we need to address these challenges because our nation's prosperity, public safety, and our public infrastructure had never been more intertwined. Meanwhile, we should also be encouraged by the promise of technological innovation. We're already seeing in so many ways, so many more ways than I can even list here, that innovation is significantly improving transportation safety and mobility options. So this is such an exciting time. There are some of these new transportation secretaries, state transportation secretaries here, and I want to let you know what a great journey you're embarked upon. This is a really close-knit community of leaders who are passionate and dedicated to infrastructure, and you'll make friends for the remainder of your lives. This is a wonderful community. This is an exciting time for all of us to be working for our nation's transportation infrastructure. I mean, according to the census, there are like over 325 million reasons to keep striving to improve America's transportation systems. And we have been given this wonderful and important responsibility. So I'd like to close by reiterating once again that the Department of Transportation is your partner. We want to help you build the infrastructure that you think best suits the needs of your communities. Thank you so much for what you do for our country, and we look forward again to working closely with each and every one of you. Thank you so much.